Hey guys, and welcome back to Boss Wife. I'm so glad you guys joined us tonight. I have a very special guest, so my intro is going to be a little different on tonight. I have two very special guests actually, and I didn't want to take up a lot of time with my introduction. Thanks, Lavita, for giving me that tip. So I'm just going to kind of jump right into it. I am going to play my great music though, so enjoy. And we're back. So tonight I have two very special guests with me, Miss Tiffany Wilshire and Ayana Yancey. These two women are very important in my life, very important in my friendships, my physical and spiritual growth as well. They play a very big part in a way that I think about a lot of things, especially with my children. We also work together at my studio, my modeling studio. So I'm just going to start by letting them introduce themselves. Ayana, if you want to go first.
I am Ayana Yancey. I am a stay-at-home mom that has four beautiful children, ages 17, 13, 8, and 6. I've been married for 18 years. I am a relationship and parenting life coach for 13 for Coaching, and I am just happy to be here today to discuss a great topic.
Well, thank you. Okay, Tiffany Wilshire, you want to introduce yourself?
I'm Tiffany Wilshire. I am a high school English teacher by day. I have 3 children, 1 bonus son. I've been married for 3 years now, so I have a blended family, and I'm excited to be here also.
Well, thank you. So we're going to just jump right in on tonight. My topic tonight is continuing parenting. Okay, last week's topic was the perfect parent. So we're going to just continue to put those illusions of the perfect parent to bed. Okay, so we know there's not a perfect parent. We know there's not a perfect parenting style. We know that we are each raising totally different children every time we have a different child. So, you know, let's just jump right in. Okay, so my first question for you guys is, what does it mean to be a mother? And when I say that, like, what does it mean to you, your definition of being a mother?
Definitely sacrifice. I think that's the biggest word that sticks out to me, because I have to think about them first in every decision. Like, if it's like going to the bathroom, I have to be like, where is the baby? Like somewhere where I can go to the bathroom. Whereas I used to just kind of just go on about my day. I remember vividly when I had my daughter, my first child, and bringing her home from the hospital, and I'm at home, and literally got up the next day, put on clothes, and was about to walk out the door, because I was so used to getting in my car, going where I went. I was like, oh my gosh, I forgot I can't, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
I can't just, it was a reality shit. Like, I got up because she was sleeping, and I just was like, wait a minute, I can't leave because I have a newborn. So that's when it really hit me. It was like, it's not about you anymore. You know what I'm saying? And so that's been a revelation in my life, because I would say I was pretty like a selfish person. Like, I want to do what I want to do. So it's taught me a lot about selflessness, and just in putting someone else before me, their needs and their wants and stuff.
Awesome.
Well, for me, if I had to coin a word, it would definitely be nurturing. And I know that when you think of nurturing, you think of like the soft and sweet, and you know what I'm saying? Like, but when I think of nurturing, I think of helping something to grow. So I kind of, when you say, how do you personally look at mothering? I became a mother at a young age. I became a mother at 19, and turned 20 shortly after. So I was fairly young. So a lot of my life did start off, as Tiffany says, it's like giving so much up of myself. As time went on, I think I built a resentment towards that. And so it, not even knowingly, even though I loved motherhood, I loved having a little person that had so much love and joy and life, you know what I'm saying? I love that aspect. But once I realized I was becoming a totally different person, whether I liked it or not, and it wasn't something that I said, okay, this is what I'm doing. It's just something that happened. And then I started to get a resentment towards everything that I had to give up to be a mother. I started looking at motherhood differently. And so I had to kind of step back and understand that mothering is not just about sacrifice. You know what I'm saying? It's not just about giving up of yourself, because that's what kind of caused me to have some of that resentment. But in nurturing and growing, like, I was given a gift. You know, God saw fit enough to place these children in my life, whether it had been children that I had birthed or children that I had just been able to be in their presence, and they would have absorbed that nurturing nature from me. Nurturing nature. and so I started to look at mothering very differently. Not only the children that I birthed, but the children that, because I was a foster parent for 6 years, the children that I was able to nurture, to able to help to grow in different areas and different aspects of their lives. So
okay, I definitely think when you become a mother, sorry, that let me just say, my first thought when I became a mother was definitely, it's not about me anymore. And I took my job very seriously. I think that was the only job I had ever had anyway. So to have a lot of responsibility, to be that responsible for a whole nother human being, was definitely scary. And I wanted to make sure I did it right, and I did it to a T. Now, being pregnant was a different story. I thought that was all about me, so I ate what I wanted. I'm like, if you don't mess up my body, I'm going to enjoy every minute of it. But after they came out, then I knew, I definitely have to make sure they eat properly. Make sure that they're exposed to the right things, that they're listening to the right things, that they're looking at the right things. So I definitely needed to make sure that their environment was the most important thing, and everything that they were exposed to and going through. But anyway, so my next question to you guys is, what do you think are while we're talking about that, the most important duties of a mother?
I think everything that you said, definitely. And I think that it changes with the era that you have the child. Let me Tiffany talked about this as well. The age you are when you have the child, the birth order. Because with the first, we all know, it's like, okay, they have to eat, eight, nutritious meals a day, and you have to make sure they have a scheduled bedtime, and they're only watching 2 hours of TV a day. So by the time you have that fourth child or even second child, you're like that commercial where the mother is handing off the child in the shower or running out the door. That's basically, it looks different. Right. So what you may feel on that first child, and you're young and you're eager and you want to be so involved and make sure that everything is perfect about how you're raising that child. I think as you get older and then more wise and have more kids, you see that sometimes some of that stuff really is not that serious. It's like, listen, are they dead? Right. They're alive, right? They ate. Right. They're growing.
Tiffany.
I think sometimes too, like in my marriage, we pretty much have a very traditional sense of like parenting. My husband is the disciplinarian, because I'm not good at that. I'm just not. Like, I'm the okay, just do what you know what I'm saying. I'm if you ever took an Enneagram test, which I suggest people to do to figure out about, I'm a 9, which is the person. I'm a peaceful person. I don't like conflict, so I don't like to have to deal with conflict. So I tend to kind of be more laid back with that. So my husband is taking up that. I'm the one that they come to when they need a hug. I'm the one they come to. You see what I'm saying? Like, that's gonna understand. It's okay. You know what I'm saying? But that was something that I had to learn, because I'm not by nature a nurturing person. I grew up with both of my parents in the household. They both worked, but we didn't hug each other a lot. We didn't do a lot of physical touch. So I didn't do that. So, I had to learn how to do that. You know what I'm saying? I know I have a lot of friends that are very physical with their parents. That wasn't my love language. So I have to make myself, because my 11-year-old, Katie, will come and hug me sometimes. I never did it to my mom. I know my mama loved me, more than anything in this world, but we just didn't do that. But Katie's needs that. So it's taught me that I have to give them their love language too. So I think that's a big part of motherhood, you know, whereas Eli is not, I mean, he's 2,
Right.
but he kind of just, he'll come and lay his head and he'll go on. But Katie, you know, even at 11, I really would have, if I was in a different place in my life, I probably would have been like, why is she hook? You know what I'm saying? I know that sounds crazy, but that's not who I am.
Right.
But that's her love language.
Right.
And realizing that my kids need something from me and having to make that a part of, you know what I'm saying?
Adjustment.
Adjust to that. So I would say that. For sure.
Yeah. That's funny that you talking about touch, because me and my auntie were talking about that earlier today, and my aunt is definitely not that touchy-feely person. My mom is, but my aunt and my uncle are not. You know, I think I've hugged my uncle like twice in my whole entire life.
Yeah.
And I know that he loves me, but that's just not his love language.
Right.
You know, he doesn't, and I have friends like that who, you know, even though they're married, they don't like to be touched that much. You know what I'm saying? So, and that's funny that you brought that up. That's what I was saying. But as far as loving our kids the way that they need us to love them, I think it's very important. I think a lot of times we don't listen to our children, but I'm gonna say I think sometimes we weren't taught to listen to our children, because we were always raised in our era, you know, children should be seen, not heard, or your opinion doesn't matter because of your age. Oh, you don't know any better.
Feelings.
Right. You don't have feelings. You don't even know what those are. You know, you don't know how to
have feelings.
Right. You're not old enough to have attitude. You're not old enough to have an opinion about anything. You know, and I think in my world, in my childhood, I didn't voice my opinion a lot because I knew just that, like, my opinion don't matter. You know, it's gonna be how it is, whatever. I'm just gonna deal with it. Now, saying all that, yes, my mom loved me, but I think it was just because that was how she was raised. Because I had a very old school grandmother, you know, and I have a real grandmother. I like to say that because a lot of people, grandmoms ain't in the 80s and 90s, you know, they're still in their 40s and 50s. So, but because we had that, and because of the era that my grandmother grew up in, and then she had children late in life, and then the way she raised her kids, I think it was just something that, you know, this is how it is, this is how it's going to be in our household. And I think that because they weren't exposed to things, and they didn't expose us to things.
Right.
So how do you guys feel like you're raising your children versus the way that you were raised? Tiffany?
Just like that. Love from my parents was providing for me.
Yes.
Making sure I was educated, making sure I knew right from wrong. And that, and being, and they were always encouraging, but it wasn't the physical stuff. So having children, particularly my 11-year-old, who needs that. You see what I'm saying? I had to change my whole dynamic of how I love her. You know what I'm saying? Because we just didn't do that. So I'm very much more physically involved with her as far as the touch, because she needs that. I don't necessarily, and maybe I did. You know, maybe I did need it, and not just, you know what I'm saying? Maybe that's why I had some kind of weird relationships growing up, because I didn't get that. And by no means I think that's just a generation. They didn't know to do that. As long as you were fed, clothed, and happy,
They did their job.
I don't have to hug on you or dote on you or stuff, you know, do that kind of thing. So I think that changed. And then two, and we talked about this earlier, very much more conversational with my children than my mother was with me. It was a standard, like you did, so you go to church on Sunday, Wednesday, Saturday choir rehearsal. That's just what you did. You don't make any conversation about that. This is what we do. You know what I'm saying? So, and it's not that I really necessarily give my kids a choice about certain things. There's certain things I still keep that. Like, you going to church on Sunday, sorry. Like, you in my house. But I do listen to what they say. You know, if Katie say, well, Mom, I don't really like that. You know, I'm more asking, like, well, why do you feel that way? My mom won't ask me that. She'll be like,
I don't care.
Yeah.
Right.
Now, I'm going to listen to you and say, okay, well, why are you feeling that way? Okay, you know what I'm saying? Okay, but you're still going.
Right.
But I am a little bit more open as far as a dialogue. We didn't have dialogues.
No.
We have dialogues now. Like, me and my mom talk all the time now.
Right.
But growing up,
because you're more eye level. I think
get
that
each other.
right.
Yes.
I think that when we were growing up, the scripture that always comes to my mind, and I think that when we talk to our children, it's the same way. It's like when you're a child, you think it's a child, and when you're an adult, you put away childish ways. So it's like your mother is not going to sit down and reason with you because you're thinking as a child. You can't possibly think as an adult. I think when we look at it, we're like, okay, I hear you, but you're thinking as a child. So while I can hear you and understand that you have feelings about this, then I'm still going to do what's best because I have an adult mind and I can see things in a different way than you can see things. But we didn't even get that understanding and explanation.
But there's some positives to that too, though.
Yeah,
because I didn't get in a lot of trouble.
I didn't either. Right.
I just knew I didn't want to disappoint them.
Right.
So on the flip side, it's like the way they did it worked for me.
For generation.
Yeah.
But I think with this generation,
and I think
gotta do something different.
I think that's a great point because last week I think we brought that up. I think because of the way we were raised, it might not be ideal today, but it worked.
It worked then, but it's too much information and technology for it to work today. Yeah. That was the difference. We didn't have when our mother told us something and their favorite word was what? Because I said so. And that's what we had to go by because we didn't have the internet to run to and to say, well, what does this really mean? Or we didn't have all this information technology and innovative research where they can say, well, this is really what, we didn't have that. So whatever our parents said was the law.
Right.
But that's all we could go by.
Right.
So for them, they have a whole world of things that they can go to that they don't have to just say because mama said so. Because they're like, oh, well, Dr. Google says, Professor, this is not right, and I'm feeling this way, and I know that this is what, this is true because, the research says that if I'm feeling this way, you just be like, because nothing's new under the sun. They're not having any different feelings than we had.
No,
they're not experiencing anything different than we have, but the environment is different, and so that's why we have to definitely open up more to our kids. And a lot of things that I intentionally don't do that my parents did. I had to make a conscious effort because sometimes we do things unconsciously and we be like, dang, I sound just like my mom. And you don't even know, but sometimes you have to be conscious about the things that you say deliberately, like you're saying the communication, the touching. You have to deliberately say, okay, I didn't see this in my household, I didn't get this from my parents, but I'm going to make sure that I do this for my kids because I know that it affected me. Whether or not I spoke on it or not, I know that it affected me, and I don't want to possibly affect my children in that way.
Right.
Yeah. So.
Right.
Absolutely.
One thing that I did with Essence, and I said this very early on in my podcast, not this one, but just when I started podcasting, I had what do you have after you have a baby? Postpartum depression. And so with Essence, because I was the only child and I knew how to internalize, I didn't really, it wasn't really seen or noticeable to people because that's just who I was. So with Essence, the way that I noticed that something was wrong is because I never held her. And so my aunt knew, so she would come downstairs and she would get her out the crib and she would take her upstairs and play with her and talk to her. And it didn't dawn on me until I realized my aunt would come downstairs every day and pick up my child. And I was like, oh wow, I'm not even bonding with that. Like, she was fed, she was changed, and all of my babies were great. Like, none of them were crybabies, none of them whined, and and so now I noticed that she doesn't like to be touched. So now when I hear her say, get off me, or they touching me, I just make everybody hug her. And kiss her. Right. I'm like, everybody give a hug and a kiss, And so my mom was totally opposite with me. I just said that. Like, my mother was definitely very affectionate, very loving on me, kissing, touching, playing with me, tickling me, whatever, and I did that with all of them. And I hate that I went through that. I know it wasn't by choice. I know it was nothing that I could have changed at the moment. And once I did realize what was going on, I talked to my doctor, and I didn't take the medicine for it because of our culture. And because it was like, oh, you just need, pray.
You said I did, right. Thank you.
Right.
Thank you. We needed this.
Because when I mentioned it, it was like, oh, you crazy? Something wrong with you? And so I mentioned it one time, And so I never mentioned it again to anybody else. So I was like, okay, you know. And so he really wanted to put me on something, and I was like, no, I don't think I'm gonna take it. Plus I was still breastfeeding, and I would have to stop breastfeeding. So I was like, no, I'm fine or whatever. But I just dealt with it, you know. So that was one of the things I felt like I really failed as a mother with Essence. But I definitely make up for it now. So,
but whether she likes it or not,
right. So, but I just wanted to jump on that point. But do you feel like you have failed as a parent in any area, or do you feel like there are definitely some things that you could have done different with either one of your children? Because we know that in raising children, especially when you have multiple kids, none of our children are exactly alike. Right. Now my older two are kind of similar as far as like their demeanor as a person. My baby two, same, but they're the older two and the baby two are totally different from each other. So we know, like, in raising children, especially multiple children, you're not raising the same person.
Right.
You can't discipline. I have 4, so I can't discipline all 4 of my children the same. Now, the baby two, almost. But, my first two, definitely not, So, and I definitely can't parent all 4 of them the exact same either. So, do you guys feel like at some point that you did something that you shouldn't have done, or that you made mistakes along the way with either one of your children?
Every day.
Right. It's from every day along the way. Right. At least along the way.
Yeah, every day.
Right.
It's something that I'm like, I shouldn't have done that.
Yeah.
My 11-year-old now does not have access to her phone. My husband took her phone for good reason, and it's killing me because I want to just give it back to her because that causes less. You see what I'm saying? And it's not that I necessarily care about her feelings. Like, I don't want her to be hurt. I just like everything to be peaceful in the house, and that doesn't cause peace.
Right.
When she doesn't have her stuff, and every day I'm like, she getting back Thursday. She getting back Thursday. But ultimately, she needed that time away. But I think that's one area that I feel like I struggle with, because I just go along to, she pretty much asked me for, and I'd be like, okay, you know what I'm saying? Because I don't want to cause disruption. With the toddler, he need to be potty training. You know what I'm saying? And it's little stuff, but it's hard because that means I have to be consistent and get up, and I'm on summer break. So some of it is laziness on my part. It's just straight up like, let me just throw this diaper on him, because you know what I'm saying. But he know what's going on, because he'll come up to me and say, I pooped. So I need to be working on that. But sometimes you're just so tired. I think those are just parental laziness. We just get those days, especially when Katie was younger. I should have been, as an English teacher, I should have been reading with her 20 minutes a day, because that's I know that. Right. And I wonder now if that's why she don't like to read, because I didn't do it as much as I feel like I should. You know what I'm saying? And that breaks my heart, because I'm like, I love to read. Why you don't like to? You know what I'm saying? And so it was a lot of things, but this is an everyday thing. If it's something, I could tell you something every day that I'm like, I shouldn't have done that, or dang, I wish I could go back in. But I think we all learning.
And sometimes you don't realize it until you see the effects of it. Yes. Especially when it's different children. Like she was talking about multiple children. Like what I did for Kayla, my oldest, I can't do for my second. Not only because he's a boy, but because he's. So yeah, it's a lot different. With my son, parenting him is a lot different than parenting my daughter. She was the type where you raise your voice at her, she's kind of like, oh, I don't want to rock the boat. I don't want anybody mad at me. Him, he's like, yeah, let's rock the boat. Let's get this boat. And I bet it don't rock over. Let's go. So I constantly try to find myself readjusting my parenting style with him, because I know the first thing that comes to mind is like my daddy, like, boy, he was very authoritative, which means like you do as I do, you do as I say and not as I do. And it was just, I don't want to hear your mouth, your opinion doesn't matter. It was just, and I find myself doing that with him, because I feel like he's a lot more of a pusher, and for us parents, like that power struggle is like, no, I'm the boss, right? Get it under control. So I think that I find myself regretting sometimes that I don't listen more to what he's really saying is not what he's really displaying. And I think that our relationship is different. Me and my son's relationship is a lot different than me and my daughter's relationship because of how I have to discipline him so much. You know, how I have to, or how I choose to discipline him, or how I choose to kind of, you know, parent him differently. So I regret that, the choices that I make sometimes, and you know, not just sitting him down and talking to him the way I talk to her, because I feel like I can't. I feel like if you want to rock, let's roll. You know, I feel like he take me, he bring the gangster out of me. You know, so and I was actually talking to, I think I talked to you as well, my mother, about how my dad was like militant when it came to cleaning. He was like white glove clean. Like every time we cleaned up, he would go behind something and, you know, that, oh, this not clean. You know, he was that. And I hated that as a child. I remember nights sleeping in the bathroom because I had cleaned it up so many times that he would come back and be like, it's not clean. It's not clean. So I just went to sleep. I'm like, it's never going to be clean. And so I intentionally don't do that to my kids. And I expect to say, hey, clean up your room. And then I don't have to go behind them because it should be clean. But in doing that, their room ain't never clean. And doing that, I end up having to clean. And Ebony, no, I would clean. I would have to do more because I don't want to put so much on them. My dad was like, I don't have to clean up. I got kids, and I try to make sure that I don't put that burden on them. But I see it maybe it was a little good in there because it's teaching them responsibility, teaching them how to clean up the right way. Now I don't like mess and dirt in my house because I was trained, and I'm worried. Kayla's going to college this year. I'm worried. I'm worried she gonna be that roommate.
Because you don't never know.
I never know. And I hope that it clicks for her when she gets out on her own.
And it might click because somebody else had to.
And that's what I said. I said it may click when her roommate's like, you dirty. You need to clean up. Yeah. Because for me it don't work. Like, Kaylin, does my room look like this? This my space look like this. Right. It doesn't. And I try to lead by example, but it's not. So those are things that I regret. I regret kind of, you know, some of the choices that I choose to make when it comes to that. Because I think like, I don't want to do this because it affected me like this. But then I have to think that it would affect me as a child, in a child mind. And my parents knew, even though they may have went about it in a way but they knew what they were doing. Yeah. You know, they knew what type of characteristics and principles and stuff that they were initially putting in me, even though if I didn't like the approach of how they were doing it. So, yeah.
I'm definitely that parent that says, yeah, I'm not cleaning up the kitchen no more.
Yeah.
Now I will say though, I was spoiled rotten, so I really didn't have to clean up until maybe it was like 15, 16. When my grandmother got too old to clean up my bedroom for me, and you know, she always though washed dishes, cleaned up, cleaned up the house, did the clothes. When we first moved out on our own, I think I was about 15. And my mom was like, yeah, I'm not doing it. I was like, I ain't either, so she got a maid,
Oh, Lord.
So we had somebody came in. But the funny thing is, sorry, Mom. The funny thing is, my mom would clean up before the maid got there. I'm like, right. What are you doing?
I just want a little mess. I don't want to see a lot of mess. Right. That would be me.
Right. So funny to me. I'm like, now when we had a cleaning lady, because when my kids were younger, I had it was just so much going on.
Yeah.
And it was very overwhelming. And like the bigger the house, the more stuff you gotta clean up, and
they don't tell you that.
Right.
That's what I pray for.
Constant.
All the time.
It is. So when they were younger, I had help, thank God. And so but now, plus we didn't have a dishwasher. We didn't get a dishwasher, I think, until like 3 or 4 years ago. It was our first time getting a dishwasher. So my kids, now they know the luxury of a dishwasher. And so, but back then I was like, oh my God, I can't make them wash all these dishes. So we would take turns. But yeah, I'm definitely that parent. Like now I'm like, I'm not cleaning up. Because if I go to work and work a whole 9 to 5, then come home and gotta run. My second job is a full-time mom too. No. I definitely feel like they need responsibility. They need to be responsible for something.
Right.
This ain't just no luxury life.
Right.
I'm not your maid and your mama, and and your best friend and your girlfriend, whatever. I'm not the baby mama. I'm not giving you money. You're not caking me for free.
Right.
And it's not easy. I feel like my mom made it look so
easy. They did. Definitely.
Like, she kept, everything was just clean in our house, and she did it. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I find myself doing the same thing. I wrote a status about on Facebook. I be fussing at Katie cleaning up her room. You never clean your room, hanging up. So, you know what I'm saying? And I'm doing. She just sitting there looking at me. You know what I'm saying? And then you worry when they get to college time, is she gonna be that kid? But because I'm just doing it for her, you know. And when I look back on it now, I'm like, she was doing the right. You know what I'm saying? I need to be more into that kind of thing. But you just don't. And sometimes you get to the point where I know they ain't gonna do it right, so let me just do it. I have a lot of moments like that. Like, I just do it myself. Like,
that's me when it comes to my space, like the kitchen and the stuff that, you know, we have 3 floors. So the bottom floor, the basement floor is David's floor because he has his office and his workout stuff. My floor is my room and the kitchen and the living room. And the kids' floor is up there. So it's like, as long as my floor good, so you got your chores on my floor, don't let them be messed up. But your floor, I have removed myself from the stress and the worry. I have 1 day a week. I schedule something every day, and this is something for me, and I try to teach my children as well. Schedules are not just to run your life; they're to help you. So I'm a very person that will be everywhere if I don't have a schedule. So I have a cleaning schedule. Like Mondays, I do something. Tuesdays, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So I don't get so overwhelmed on one day. But so Thursday is my day to go upstairs and, you know, clean whatever extra needs to be cleaned. But their rooms, I learned I'm just gonna have to let that go. And I know sometimes I shouldn't, but this is like, okay, when are you going to hold them accountable? When are you going to hold them responsible? But it's only so much yelling I can do. It's only so much stressing that I can do. And if I'm continuing to stress about the same thing and worry about the same thing, you know what? I'm going to have to lay this OCD aside and let them wallow in their dirt. It's like, close the door when you leave your room. And don't bring your mess down in my space. Because I can't even stress out about it no more.
That's true. So how long do you guys think being a mother lasts? And let me put emphasis on that. So what I'm saying is, like you were saying, Tiffany, you know, now we can talk to our mothers. We're not on their same level, but we've been through life as well. They've been through life, and now it's kind of like, okay, mom, tell me what to do. Or, you know, now you're wanting that advice. Now you're like, okay, y'all listen. But how long do you think mothering lasts or parenting lasts?
Forever. I can't imagine, you know, mine is young, but I can't imagine not worrying about them in some form or fashion.
So the saying is, a minute on your lap and a lifetime on your heart.
And I know you're gonna worry about them and pray for them. I am a firm believer that my mother's prayers kept me out of some situations.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? Like, it was her just kind of, when I wasn't praying for myself because I was too dumb to, you know what I'm saying? Like, so I, you know, I remember she telling me, you know, when you went to college and was out of the house, she said, you know, I prayed on the weekends. I knew you'd be going to parties and stuff. You know what I'm saying? Like, that kind of stuff. I would worry if, you know, when I moved back home after college, like, if I didn't come in, and I wouldn't want them to come in late because I'm still like, it's y'all house, you know. But even if it was like 11 or 12, she wouldn't sleep. She might have been in the bed, but she wouldn't sleep. I know she wouldn't. I couldn't imagine. You know, I don't sleep. Katie went to a Girl Scout sleepover thing, and I still was like, I couldn't sleep. You know what I'm saying? I knew she was with people that I trusted. She was fine, but just not, you know, them knowing that they're there and you're not with them. So I don't think that ever goes away. It might even get worse as you go. Get older. Especially because you got one going. I mean, that's gonna be a big, your first one
transition. Y'all listen.
Yeah, like I can't imagine.
Please, thank you. No,
I mean, I can't imagine. That's gonna be a big adjustment. Because she gonna be there. Yeah, and you ain't gonna be able to just touch her. You know what I'm saying? So I'm gonna pray for you.
Thank you.
For real.
You. I need it.
I can't imagine. Yeah,
we need it. But I think that parenting changes throughout the years. Someone once told me that from 0 to 11, you parent with like a fear kind of, you know what I'm saying? Like a healthy amount of fear, just like we're supposed to fear God to be obedient and reverence Him.
Right.
A healthy amount of fear from 0 to 11. Your child, you parent them more in way as in do this or this may happen, or you're training them, you're raising them. From 11, on, it's kind of like you shape the person that they've become.
Right.
And so you kind of shift that parenting, which I've experienced with my daughter. Now we're like best friends, even though I say I'm not your little friend.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But she's my best friend because I have already shaped, and she's become the person she's going to be.
Right.
So at this point, I have to kind of throw my hands up in the mothering sense, as I was controlling and manipulating her in a way, as to being more of a supportive role to her. You know what I'm saying? Like, hey, this is life. You're gonna make mistakes, and come to me. We can talk about it. We can work it out. But it's the relationship changes. Just like my son is 13, and now we're making that shift to like, I need to do the right thing because it's the right thing to do, not because Mama told you to do it, not because I'm staying on your back or because I'm barking. You know what I'm saying? Like, that relationship changes. So that mothering, what it looks like, changes. Like we're becoming more of we consult each other. You know what I'm saying? Like she consults me. Like when she says, she Caitlin, did you ask me to go? Some A, B, and C. Well, I talked to you about it. You talked to me.
Right.
That's asking. So I have to kind of. She's going to be in college in a couple months.
Right.
So I have to understand.
Right.
But I want her to let me know, and that's why I have to let her know. Like, Caitlin, you don't have to ask me. You're not asking my permission, but please just let me know what's going on so I know what to expect. Because of course, as mothers, the first thing to think about is what if something happens?
Right.
They call me and be like, well, who was the last person she was with?
I don't know.
I don't want to be the one to say I don't know. Right.
And I find myself being in comparison to my mom. Because like I said, she made it look so easy, and she was she is such a good mom that I often wonder, like, when Katie gets older, what will she say about me?
Yeah.
Like, I have a fear of that. Like, if she gonna be like, my mom should have did this, or she shouldn't have done that. I'm constantly like, and I think that's why I overcompensate with a lot of things. I give her so much. It's because my mama did such a good job. I had my moments.
Right.
But geez, you know what I'm saying? I be like, golly, my mom was a great mom.
Yeah.
And I'm like, the fact that I don't cook every day bothers me because my mama cooked for us every day. And I be like, and I feel like I'll never measure up. You know what I'm saying? But we're different.
Yeah.
So we have different strengths. So my mama cooked every day and had this kind of cookie cutter, Betty Crocker type motherhood to me. I'm more of the, you can come talk to me. Which I didn't feel like that as a child. Like I could talk to mama. Not that I didn't think, like, I just feel like she was going to be disappointed if I told her something.
Right.
And I don't think Katie will feel that way. Now, she might not have a home cooked meal every day. But she know if something happened bad,
emotional support.
Katie will come. You see what I'm saying? So I think you got to have a balance of, like, you got to know what you're good at and your strengths. You know what I'm saying?
And not feel guilty about what you're not good at.
What you're not good at.
Yeah.
That was one of my biggest things. I was definitely that parent that worried about, oh my God, they didn't have a vegetable today.
Yeah.
They're going to hate me.
Yeah, I felt guilty making spaghetti, y'all. I used to really feel guilty because I felt like spaghetti was like one of them meals you just, throw together. I was like, I can't make spaghetti. I gotta make spaghetti and chicken and pork and green beans and a roll on the side.
Right.
That is a meal.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Because we grew up when they cook. Cook.
Yeah. So I definitely do have that trait though. I try to make sure they get at least about 4 home cooked meals. And
Lord.
I'm
gonna live with y'all.
But it's easier also because it's when you have big families, eating out is
you have
so much stress.
Yes.
But now eating out is the same thing as me going buying all the ingredients for a whole meal.
But you talk about how y'all cook together.
We do. We cook together.
And I thought
that's awesome. Yeah.
I think that's cool.
Everybody's in the kitchen cooking.
Yeah. I love
or
that.
they're like, Mama, what can I do? What can I do? So I'm like, well, you can season the meat while this one washes the meat off, or you can get the pot out and start opening up the can, or
that's enjoyable. That's enjoyable experience.
Yeah. And my grandmother did that for me.
They'll carry it with them.
Yeah. And that's what I want them to do. My mom, I had 2 great mothers. I said that earlier in my podcast, and everybody's homes look totally different. And for me, I had 2 parents, but it was a grandmother and a mother. And my grandmother was the one who made everything look easy. I mean, she, like I said, she kept the house clean. I never saw, even my mama, and I'm sure she did, because I hear stories about my auntie getting on my mom about cleaning up. But even when we were living with my grandmother, I ain't seen my mom clean up nothing. Like, you know, and she was fully grown. You know, my grandma, it was just, she was like, no, I got it. You know, y'all gonna do what you gonna do. We never had dirty clothes. The floors were never swept. I mean, were always swept. You know, they were, like, nothing was ever out of place. And we had 3 cooked meals. And my grandmother would get upset if my mama took me to eat out. You know, and it was like a chip and a drink. That was a big pleasure if you got that. You know, when I was growing up. Now I hate that I buy my kids snacks, but it's like, what mom doesn't buy the kids snacks? You know, it's like
Live a little.
Katie eats
right.
for the 3 meals.
Oh no, see, that's Kayla now. I don't know where she gets that from because I was just not.
Hot chips.
I was just not that parent. And now to see how she really likes to eat because she makes her own choices. It's like, where did this come from?
Right.
I think it's the internet and the quickness. Everything is quick, you know?
Yes, definitely. But yeah, I was definitely that parent that was like, no, I got to make sure they get a vegetable, a dairy, a meat. Like, it has to be balanced. And I was so hard on myself for not doing that for them. I had a question that I had a whole meaning for saying that. But anyway, so as we're guiding our kids and getting them prepared for the next level in their life, the next course in their life, what do you think is definitely going to be the letting go period for as a mother?
You gotta speak to that.
What do you mean? A time frame or a scenario?
The time that you say, okay, I'm just gonna have to say, you know, this is it. You gotta fly. Call me if you need me.
But we do that every day.
I'm currently doing that, trying to do that because I think it's more or less for me because I see the relationship that me and my mom had. Me and my mom have always been best friends. We've always been really close, and I think that because me and my siblings were my mother's whole world, it's so hard to kind of let us go. You know what I'm saying? Like now we're 40, we're in our 40s and 30s, and it's still very much, you know, I want to be involved in your everyday life and call me every day. And of course, I want that too because my mom is my best friend. But I also know that the worry that she goes through because it was hard for her to let go because her life was us, you know. And so I think I consciously make an effort to say, okay, Yana, you need to kind of start peeling back a little bit so that when your kids do go and grow and fly and start their own families and, you know, start doing what we raised them to do, I don't feel so sad and I don't feel so forgotten or left behind. You know what I'm saying? Because this is what I'm raising my children to do. I'm raising my children to be successful, to be happy, to be peaceful, to be healthy, and to live their life in whatever that may look like for them individually. That's what I'm raising them to do. Right. So I have to sit back and feel accomplished in that and not feel like that it's a sad moment, even though I know I'm gonna miss my babies and them being, you know what I'm saying, my babies, them being mine. You know, it's like it's mine, it's for me, it's my possession. You know, I have to understand that we're not parents to control. We're not parents to have these little people that grow up that are little us. You know what I'm saying? Little versions of us. We're really being parents to train children or little people through a part of life, and then letting them go. It's very small compared to their real life.
Because they're going to be adults longer than they were children.
Right. So I have to prepare myself. I'm preparing myself now as my daughter is prepared to go to college. I'm just, you know, I'm really trying to savor this last summer that we're going to have together. So I think we're spending a lot more time together as far as like movie nights and just her getting in the bed with me. And because she's not very much of a hugger or, you know what I'm saying? That's not her personality. But I can see now that she's becoming more of that because I think for her too, she's realizing like, I'm not going to be able to do this every day. And while I used to stay in my room and do my own thing, it's gonna be different when my room is 200 miles away and I can't just go downstairs. Right. You know, so.
But we let them go every day for something. You know, Katie, when she went to kindergarten, I cried all the way to school.
Yes.
And she was like, she literally pushed her hand out like, I'm good. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And I was like, going to Tyner just a mess. And my student was like, what's wrong? You know, I'm having to let her go to middle school. Not even middle school in the sense of going to a physical school, but she about to transition to a totally different person, and I'm getting my mind prepared for that. With Silas, this is last year in high school, and wow, he's been in my life since he was 11. You know what I'm saying? I can't believe he's finna be a senior. You know what I'm saying? And not having to fall over a soccer ball in my house. You know what I'm saying? Like just stuff like that. That's gonna be a transition for him because in my head he's still a little kid, and he's about to be a man. Eli going to daycare the first day was like, you know what I'm saying? We let them go all the time. You know what I'm saying? But I guess that's part of the process, though.
Yes.
My mom definitely spoiled me to the point where I didn't want her to let me go. Like even now, like if I could have my mama right here in the same house with me, even though we don't get along, like, and I love you, mama, but she knows good and well we cannot stay in the same house together longer than maybe 4 or 5 days. Like that's it. But if I could, like, I would buy a huge house, just so we could be in the same house. Like I tell her all the time, like, I need you right here beside me, like, but she ruined me, so that was on her. So
and those relationships form the relationships I think you have with your kids.
They do.
And that's so funny you said that. That's one reason I fell in love with my husband, because when we were dating, I asked him, I said, what if my mom got sick and she had to go on a nursing? He was like, no, she had to live with us, right?
Right.
And I knew then, I was like,
oh yeah, you know what?
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Because he was like second night, he was like, she come with us. Right? Like he was looking at me like, of course, though, I didn't want to let her go, and that kind of thing. So I think that forms how we feel about our own children.
Definitely. My mom was very innovative when I was growing up. It was always something we were doing, games and oh my God, I hated puzzles, but she would buy puzzles, and then she would buy these little, do y'all remember the paper dolls?
Yes.
And the paper doll clothes? Like she bought me all this stuff, and it was just like, she always wanted to make sure my childhood was good, So now with my kids, I was just telling my aunt that this past weekend, because we did, even though it was Father's Day, we still did like ices for the kids, or we call them margaritas. But we did the margaritas, and we had movie night and game night and whatever. So I want to make sure that I definitely have that in my kids' childhood, the same enjoyments that I had, that my mom made sure that I had. Because I don't want my kids ever growing up saying, well, I don't remember anything about my childhood. I don't, and my husband literally told me that. And I asked him, because I'd be like, what did y'all do? He was like, I don't know. We didn't do nothing, And it's like, oh, okay, well, we definitely can't do that in this household.
Right.
Like, no, I need my kids to say, oh my God, I remember this moment. Or, oh, my mom used to let me cook in the kitchen with her. Or, whatever. Because I remember a time when they were little, I used to be like, hey, y'all get out my kitchen.
Right.
But now it's like, hey, come on, y'all, let's go cook dinner. Let's cook. Like Sunday, the boys was like, Mama, we'll grill. Of course I had to be out there with them.
Right, yeah.
But they were like, yeah, we got it. We're cooking for Daddy, It's like, I definitely want to bring my childhood, because I had a great childhood. Like, I want to make sure that my kids have just as great or even better. At some point, we have to hit, we have to hit the realization of, I'm no longer Ebony. I'm no longer Ayan. I'm no longer Tiffany. There is a thin line between, like you said, do as I say, not as I do. My mom, I said this last week, she didn't really say, hey, I went through this. It was, don't do this. You'll never have to go through that. It was never, let me explain to you the consequences of me going through this. You know what I'm saying? It was, because like you said, it was forbidden, or you was just too young to understand, or whatever, the case may be. Because even with my body, when I got married, I was very modest. Because I grew up in a very modest home. Some things you just didn't do, like red nail polish. I still can't wear red. Like I have one pair of red shoes, like, because it was just, it was like one of those things you just don't do, because another kind of woman wears red, and we ain't doing that. So, at some point we have to say, this isn't me, this is you, and we have to not blur the lines of, I need you to be who I am. You know what I'm saying? And so, do you guys feel like now is a great time to say, hey, listen, this is the mistakes I made, don't go into this trap, or or just learn from my mistakes. You know what I'm saying? Like, is there a moment that you feel like there are age appropriate things that you can talk to about your child that you went through yourself, or you feel like, no, I just need to shelter my child?
Every age. I think there's a lesson for every age. Like Olivia is very emotional. She's very either extremely happy or extremely sad, and it can happen with just like that. So a lesson that I know, it took me to I was never emotional to the point where I was like, I cried fast or anything like that, but whatever emotion I do experience, I experience it extremely. So there's no gray area. I'm extremely everything that I am, and I see that in her. So even at the age of 6, 7, and 8, I try to give her ways to meditate and calm down and think about things like, Olivia, I can say, because I knew it took me to go to anger management when I was 17 to say, Ayana, you can't see red. You know what I'm saying? You can't get to this point, because then you return to this person and you look back, you be like, I did all that? I said that? So at 7, now I'm trying to notice that these are things that happened when I went from 0 to 10, even at the age of 6 and 7, that can turn into me being aggressive, me being angry to the point where I want to punch. You know what I'm saying? And so those are lessons that I'm teaching her, but at every age, I think that you can see something in it, all of your children, even if they're totally opposite from you. Genetics is a big thing. And I tell my kids all the time, it's better to get a taught lesson than a bought lesson.
That's true.
And I tell them that. I said, because them lessons you gotta buy are expensive. There is no way that anything that I'm telling you is gonna hurt you. It's no way that any instructions that I'm giving you is to keep you from living a good life. So listen to what I'm telling you, and I do share. I think our parents didn't share as much with us as we do with them. Even my experience of how my first daughter got here. We weren't married. We were freshmen in college. And I think that when she would hear me tell that story all the time, I mean, I was at the clinic ready to have an abortion with her. And God spoke to me, and I called my pastor. He was like, well, what if Martin Luther King's mother would have had an abortion? And she hears at 17, and at that point I was like, I can't do it. I don't know who God is creating inside of me and what she will become. And I think that I would tell that story sometimes, and she always internalized it as she was a mistake. I didn't want her, and I never realized till she got older that's how she looked at it, and then I had to sit her down and talk to her, and it was like, no, I'm sharing this so that I can, number one, keep you from putting yourself in a situation that's going to make it a lot harder than it has to be. It's not that you were a mistake, because you were a blessing. You changed my life. You made me a better person, and because I was living for you. But I don't want you to have to go through this to make yourself a better person. I don't want you to have to make your life harder before you know what I'm saying, before you can receive those blessings. So just sitting down and sharing your story in a way they can understand. But she couldn't understand the story that I was trying to tell at 6 and 7. All she heard was, oh, mama got pregnant, she didn't want to be pregnant. That means she didn't want me. But when she got older, I can sit her down and say, no, this is the story behind that. Now that you can understand what I was really trying to say, it was not, you were not the mistake. It was what I was doing that was the mistake.
Right.
And how I was doing it.
Right.
And I wasn't prepared mentally, physically, emotionally, financially.
That's right.
Okay.
For the consequences. So.
And I think it, my issue is trying to figure out, as a teacher, you think all, at this age, kids' development, you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
And I think that this generation of kids knows more than what we knew.
Definitely.
And I it's hard for me to find a balance between like appropriateness and like, oh, I need to let her know this. Because of stuff that is on TV, the stuff that I see on TV that's played on ABC even was not on ABC.
Disney.
The words that they use is not, and I'm very much anti-censorship. I feel like I need you to see this so we can dialogue about it. I'm not one of those like, okay, don't look. And of course, I ain't gonna let Eli sit and watch something, but like, she gonna see this. Somebody gonna show her at school on their phone.
I had to get to that point.
Yeah,
I wasn't like that.
See,
I'm definitely not at that point.
I was like, they kissing.
Right. That's what I'm saying. But see, I've been the total opposite because I teach high school. So I see the 16-year-old girls, and a lot of times we assume that they're like hot to trot. No, they making straight A's. They in stuff. Who I'm thinking perfect that is getting in the car when they leave and going to smoke marijuana. I see it every day. So I guess I see too much that I'm kind of like, Katie, this is what, you know what I'm saying? And then I be wondering, do she be like, okay, Ma. You know what I'm saying? But I guess I'm so scared of her not knowing because I didn't know. Like I didn't know. Nobody told me. So when I saw it, I was like, oh, what's that? I'm going to do it. You know what I'm saying? Because nobody had that conversation with me. So I think I be trying to find a balance of like, okay, am I saying too much? I mean, me personally at 11, with Katie's frame, because she's so small, her showing a little midriff don't look like it does on somebody else's daughter. So when she have a little midriff showing, and her mind, she looks cute. But in my head, oh my God, is that, I don't want nobody to think.
Sexualize her.
Yeah, you see what I'm saying?
I was the same way.
So I be trying to feel like I don't want her to feel like uncomfortable about her body because you are beautiful. Because then if I say don't wear it, then she be like, well, I know I'm too skinny. She'll say something like that. Like, no, you know what I'm saying? Because girls are built different. So then I have to be careful about how I feel about. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? I didn't realize, like, how can you be too skinny? Because I've always been overweight, so I don't understand that concept. So I'm like, people would kill me.
And it's an issue.
It's an issue to her.
Yes, it's an issue to skinny people.
And that's all right. And I didn't realize that. You know, I had to step back and be like, you know, and people will say, like, my family members are like, she just so tall and skinny, and I didn't realize it was hurting her feelings. Because in my mind, who doesn't want to be tall and skinny? You know what I'm saying? But in this generation, they want this, and they want all the hips, and so she don't have all that.
Right.
So she like looking from a different perspective, and I'm thinking, so I had to take a step back and say, you know, and then why can't I wear my top up here? Then we had to have that conversation because there are men that, you know what I'm saying? And then she be like, what do you mean? You know, and I'm like, but I gotta go there because she asking me, and I can't, and I definitely don't want to be like, well, I'll tell you when you're older,
right?
Because somebody got to, because in this generation, I've never seen so much sex trafficking and talks of that stuff. That stuff is real. People taking these kids, you know what I'm saying? So I had to have a conversation with her about being in the store and walking off. She would do it like she just be, you know what I'm saying? And I look around, she gone. You know what I'm saying? And I had to tell her, somebody will grab you,
right?
And then she'd be like, well, why would they do that?
Really?
Yeah. Or then, okay, well, Mama, what are they doing with these girls? She asked because this is what's on the news. You know what I'm saying? So then you have to be like, you gotta tell her the truth because it is what it is. But then I find myself being like, okay, am I telling too much? You know what I'm saying? Like for her age, but I don't know because they know so much.
Yeah. And
somebody's gonna tell her at school.
Yep.
Because somebody's mama. Even with the church thing, I was telling my grandmother the other day, I was like, Grandma, you'd be surprised at how many kids they don't go to church. Like that's normal for me is church.
Right.
But there's a ton of those. There's more and more now that don't. You know what I'm saying? So a lot of people aren't being taught the same things that I'm trying to instill in my child. So somebody's going to show her stuff on the phone that's inappropriate. We had that conversation. My husband had that conversation about, you know, watching inappropriate things on TV with Silas. It's coming up, you know what I'm saying? In my mind, like, what is he looking? You know what I'm saying? Like, but it's so free to get it. You can get it real quick. You know what I'm saying? That's I didn't know that was a whole different. You know, there's so much stuff we didn't, and maybe it was there. It just wasn't as accessible.
It wasn't accessible. Just like what we're doing. We were talking about earlier. The things that we did. We say, "Oh, this generation's so bad. It's so horrible." They're doing stuff we were doing. We just didn't have Facebook. It wasn't.
I was listening to R. Kelly.
I was
12 Play. And we was 13.
And I was
Trina. I'm looking like
Trina. Listen.
That trick daddy.
But wait a minute. I'm thinking like Kayla. I was like, Kayla, this is what we used to listen to. She was like, Mama, she sound like City Girls. I was like,
that's all
she do. She kind of sound like me. She always
knew the words. We do the words.
I can't believe I was saying that at that age. But I think the difference is just the technology. I think that they're able to see more. We're able to see more of what's really going on. Our parents weren't able to see what we were really doing and what was really going on. Now we can see it, and they're exposed to the point like where it's either you communicate to them before it happens because you know it's out there and you know it's accessible and they're exposed to it, or you see what they're really getting into, because either way, you know, it's out there.
I guess I just want you, and she ain't gonna, I ain't gonna know everything to tell her, but I want you to be able, when somebody tells you something, you see something, oh yeah, your mama talked about that.
Yeah.
Or she told me that was coming up. You know what I'm saying? And she not like I was like, oh, for real, let me, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, right.
Because I don't even know what that is, but it looked fun. You know what I'm saying? So let me do it.
Yeah, definitely. I was definitely sheltered, so I didn't really get into a whole lot of stuff, but the music thing was hilarious because I remember I love Bone Thugs and Harmony, and I grew up in a church home, you know, so it was definitely, you know, like I think my mama knew I listened to R. Kelly. But
I don't even think they paid attention to much.
I don't think they did. But as far as like rap music, that was a definite no in my house. But the thing was, she walked by my room one morning and I was playing Bone Thugs Harmony before I went to school. Boy, she flew in there and broke that CD so quick. I was like, I just bought that. I was like, mama. But you know, so there were definitely things, and I'm like that now, like. To a certain extent, I see what y'all saying. I just can't do it. Like, no, I'm not. You definitely not gonna hear about it in my house. And my thing is, because I don't want you to think that it's acceptable. And even though you're saying I'm gonna tell you about it because somebody else is gonna tell you about it, you gonna see it, yes. But then when you come home, you gonna know I don't see it in my home. I don't see my parents doing it. I don't hear my parents saying that, and I know it's not acceptable.
Because I can't listen to it on the radio. Certain things on the radio. I mean, when they in the car, I mean, it's stuff that I listen. I ain't gonna sit up here in front with you. That it's some rap songs from back in the day that I be. Right. You know what I'm saying? But it's weird. As soon as Katie step in the car, I be like, I turn that on.
Yeah.
You feel bad. It makes you feel bad.
Right.
You know, like I can't listen to this with her in the car. Not just because she there. If something comes over my body, I'm like, I cannot. Knowing she here. Yeah. So she, you know, I think our kids should know there's a level of respect.
Oh yeah,
that's there that they, you know,
definitely.
I ain't finna play from my mama.
Yeah. But guys, thank you so much. My last question for you both is about validating their feelings. I know we talked a little bit about this earlier, but I know that right now, talking about having a conversation with our children and speaking on things and talking to them about things that they're seeing outside of the home, I know a lot of things are more out now, sexuality wise, mental health wise. I know, you know, the whole gender thing is I don't even know, like it's baffling. Like when I hear, I don't you know, consider myself agender, period, you know, or you know,
gender fluid.
Yeah, like it's just so many things are
new.
Yeah. Like I don't even understand where half of the stuff comes from, but you know, I don't know if people sitting at home making the stuff up and then sharing it to the world, like you know, but like you said, I think Ayana, you touched on it earlier about, you know, this is how I feel. So, and I looked it up, and so it must be real because the internet is telling me that the way I'm feeling, this is how it should be. You know, and so how do we, as parents, not just mothers, but how do we validate our children's feelings and guide them the way that we were either guided, or you know, and then the whole Christianity comes into play, or Buddhism, or you know, yogaism. I don't know if that's a word, but I know all the ism. You know, like in your beliefs, period. Like, how do you validate your children and let them know, you know, this is what we believe, or if they say, hey, I don't believe that, you know, or you know, I haven't seen God, or I don't believe in Buddha, or I don't believe in the yogas, or you know, like how do we make sure as a parent we're not saying just go sit down, you don't know what you're talking about, you know, those feelings aren't valid, like we're not even gonna talk about it.
I think the discussion needs to happen. I think as far as, you know, God and Christianity, you trying to try to look the way they should go, and they're not gonna, you know what I'm saying? I think everybody, I didn't know people didn't believe in God until I went to college and heard people say that. You know, I thought that was foreign to me. You don't, you know, I guess now I see it more, but it didn't change my beliefs. And I hope that I instill enough in my children that they know, even if they start researching things and talking and having friends of different faiths, that they still know where home is, if that makes sense. That's my only hope, because that God only requires us to do what we're supposed to do as parents. Now, once they get out your house, you put the foundation there.
You did.
If you did what God told you to do, I think that it will always be with them. But we can't. I'm gonna love you regardless,
right?
Because you're my baby. But I think you just put as much in, on that groundwork and that foundation up front, that no matter what, and they're gonna go through phases and all kind of stuff, that ultimately they come back home.
Right.
If that makes sense.
I think for me, I try to be as relatable as I can with my kids without dumbing myself down or making them feel like I'm on their level.
Right.
Because sometimes I have to make sure, like, whoa, wait a minute, what you think this is? But you have to kind of step back.
That's true.
But I still want to be relatable to them so they know that, hey, I've been where you've been. So don't think that I've lost so much touch that I don't understand what it feels like to be in a world where changes are happening to yourself, changes are happening around us. There's so many questions, there's so many things that you want to do, that you can't do, that you can do. There's so much stuff going around that I want to be relatable enough where they can come to me and understand that Mama understands. She understands. Because I think that that's what causes the divide, when a child feels like, oh, she's not gonna understand. I'm just not gonna say nothing, because like you said earlier, it's not gonna matter anyway. Just because they don't see things changing doesn't mean that it doesn't matter.
Right.
And number one, I love you, so it matters to me. How you feel on your worst day matters to me. And we can come together and put a perspective on this thing. Just like, I had to do a lot of changing and kind of like a whoo, because my bottom two cry more than my top two, and that was one thing that I could take an active child, I could take a mischievous child, but a crying child, I'd be like, oh my Lord Jesus, it makes me. But I had to, what I always tell our kids, you keep crying, get some cry about.
Right.
I had to change that, because they already have something to cry about. That's why they're crying. You see what I'm saying? Like, either they're crying out of habit, they're crying because they can't explain their emotions and their feelings. That's the only way they know how to get it out. So I have to sit down and say, you know what? Let me be gentle in this moment with my child, even though they went against everything I was raised to do. Because like, you ain't got nothing to cry about. Why are you crying? You know what I'm saying? Hush it up.
Right.
But now I have to sit down and calm down and say, okay, why are their emotions everywhere? Why are they so overwhelmed? Whether it's because of outside stimulus, it could be anything. You know what I'm saying? When a child is overstimulated, they're going to be frustrated and cry. And I have to tell them, sometimes I feel like crying too.
Right.
When I get upset, I feel like crying, but we have to find other ways to explain our emotions besides crying. And sometimes I like to say, go upstairs and cry it out. And come back when you get ready to talk and to really, you know what I'm saying? So just being relatable.
And somebody has to be that for them in this generation.
Right.
And to validate and say it's okay. My husband is from Trinidad. So he's from the island. So he don't, what you crying for?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But, he and I've had conversations with Eli. Said, we got to have a healthy balance of this, because Silas is so like stoic all the time. Like, I don't know if somebody just came down here and something happened to him, he still just be like, you know what I'm saying? He is so manly even in his young age, that I told my husband, I said, we're going to have to take a different approach with Eli. Silas is a great kid, but he's very much
emotionless.
Yes, all the time. You know what I'm saying? And I know that's from my husband saying, you a man, you don't cry. And so we've had those conversations, and I see their relationship even changing with, he'll say, well, Eli, how do you feel? It's so funny. You know what I'm saying? Because this is a big guy. He will tell me why you crying, and he'll hug. You know what I'm saying? And we've noticed even a change in that. You know what I'm saying? But that's a behavior that you have to learn, because we both come from that. Like, what you crying for? Like, chill out. You know what I'm saying? Like, and then you have to have that balance too of knowing when you have an 11-year-old that's doing too much.
Right.
Like, there's no need for this. You know what I'm saying? So it's on both ends of the coin, I think.
That's true. I definitely know that in raising 2 boys and 2 girls, I had to cater to emotions, physical, emotions, mental emotions, like, because I didn't have that. And I know the importance of it, because all of that is important in raising children, because like you said, that to them, that's also how they relate to you, and that's how they're gonna feel like, hey, this is a safe space. I'm allowed to feel the way that I feel, and then my mom is gonna be like, I may not agree, but I'm definitely gonna meet you halfway and be like, okay, I understand how you feel, because your feelings are true to you,
right?
And it may not
reality.
be, it's your reality. It may not be a fact for what you feel, but you're feeling it. So let me make sure that I understand, and that you feel like I understand, because I do want you to feel like you can come to me and talk to me about anything. Because if not, I think that's why our society has gone just crazy, because nobody was there to say, hey, I hear you,
I see
don't go rob these people, come tell me what you need, or don't beat up your wife, communicate with her. And I don't think and like I said, I think that our parents did a great job. That era just didn't realize communication plays a lot of parts in how we raise our children. Just like when we're in relationships, we want our spouse to communicate with us. And I don't think that it was just it was communicated to our parents or their parents that you got to communicate with children, because one day they're gonna be an adult and they're not gonna know how to communicate.
Right.
They're not gonna know how to express their feelings. They're not gonna know how to say, this is how I'm feeling, but not let me act on that feeling. You know what I'm saying? And so I definitely think that it's great to validate your children, even though we don't agree with how they're feeling. It's definitely important to listen to them and say, okay, I got you. We're gonna work on it together. And that's what parenting is. It's about evolving with your children. No, our children aren't here to make us who they want us to be. We're still here to parent them, but I'm also gonna help you become a great person. And in that
the whole person,
the whole picture. Yeah,
because the character gets you in more doors.
That's it.
Than anything else.
Yeah.
And we keep talking about, and I hate to be the one that always going to go back to, the man and slavery and all I'm about to take it there. But we keep talking about our parents and their parents and their parents. We have to remember where we're coming from. We're coming from how our parents were taught how to be parent, came from a master slave mentality. So that you do. And you don't ask questions, and you hold your head down, and you, as long as you're getting fed, as long as you got a place over your, you know what I'm saying? Like, this is your payment, this is, and if you do wrong, what happens? You get beat. This is where we're coming from. So this is our parents, and it trickled down, and it made a little bit less throughout the years, but the face of why we're finally getting to a point where we can say, because our white counterparts been saying what they want to say to their kids or their parents. I hate you. Oh, Bob, I know you feel bad and what's going on. They've been there for years.
They have.
We're just getting to the point where our kids ain't saying they hate you, because they better not. They gonna, we still.
Right.
But Mom, because I tell my kids, you can say whatever you want to say to me at the appropriate time in the appropriate way. You can say, Mom, when you said that really bothered me. That hurt my feelings when you yelled at me. I don't like to be yelled at.
Yeah.
You can say that. We couldn't.
No, we didn't.
But where is it coming from? We have to understand where. Right.
Could you imagine?
You better not say
say what? All your friends leaving. All of them.
Like my child knock you in the next week.
Right.
But yeah,
they didn't know anything else.
They didn't know any better. And now that we know better, we have to do better.
Right.
For the mental health and the betterment of the wholeness of our children.
And so that they have positive relationships with other people.
As well. Yeah.
Good relationships with the opposite sex. So if they not.
And the same sex.
Yeah.
Because
and
as
themselves.
Women, we need, and themselves. As women, we need to know how to talk to each other. We need to know how to be there for each other. We need to listen to each other. Because when we work with people, we're not going to always be working with men. We're not going to be working by ourselves. Like, they need to know that, it's important to communicate in all aspects of life.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, and in my life coaching, I make sure that that's something that is very I kind of hone in on is communication, and also making sure that your perception is spoken. Is because a lot of times we make our perception our reality. You know, that's something we weren't taught to do. You know, I always think about I'm a family of 3. I have 2 other older brothers. I'm the only girl. I'm the baby. We all have a whole different idea and experience of how we grew up. We grew up in the same house with the same parents, but we have different personalities and we have different perceptions of how it happened and what had happened. We can tell a story 3 different ways. We was all there in the same house, the same story.
Absolutely.
You know, so I get that just goes to show that people's perception is their reality, and you have to make sure that you understand how your child is seeing things. So that you can be, you know what I'm saying? Like now my mom looks, you know, 30 years later, she was like, what? That's how y'all felt? That's what happened? You know, because for her, she was the parent. She wasn't seeing it that way. But when we're talking to our kids, we're kind of getting a front line, like present day view on how they're viewing things now, how they're seeing things. And not waiting until 20 years later we sit around the table and we're all telling stories and we like...
And everybody mad.
Right. And everybody telling stories. Oh, so that's why I have this kind of relationship with, you know, with people.
Right.
Or with my spouse.
Right.
You know?
Well, thank you, Ayana, for that. I know we could talk all night about this, about being a parent. My last thing, I promise. I'm like that, you know, the preacher. They be like, okay, I'm closing. Right. This is my 3rd closing. For the mothers out there, what quick advice would you give? Because I know we're talking about parenting, but we really didn't get to touch on mothering and who you are as a person and how not to allow being a mother to take away your identity. This is just a part of who you are. It doesn't define who you are. Got a quick segment on that?
That's my advice.
Okay, what is it? What I just said?
Yes, because we're women. And really, God created us to be able to be helpmeets, but not only to our spouse, but to everybody in our lives. So we can't just... men compartmentalize. They can only have one focus at one period of time. We're wired where we can extend ourselves in ways where, you know, we can be a mom and we can be a career woman and we can be a great friend and we can be we can be all of these things. So embrace that. You don't have to give up one thing for another, but you also have to make sure that you're taking care of yourself. Self-care is needed. Whatever it is, for me it's my pedicures. You know what I'm saying? I need my pedicures, so that's my time. You have to find time to kind of regroup, reset, refresh, and renew yourself so that we can be who God created us to be to everybody.
Great advice. Tiffany?
You know, don't compare yourself to any other mom. I think that's the biggest thing, because there's no one size fits all. What you do well, another mom don't. You know, like I used to, and I think we get so caught up, especially like Facebook, and I see people that like their kids are involved in all these different activities and they're on a family vacation every week, and I'll be like, oh, why can't I? You know what I'm saying? And I mean, even just y'all, the fact that y'all cook way more than I probably do, I'd be like, dang, I wish I could do, but that ain't me. Right. You know what I'm saying? Right. So my kids love me for me. You know what I'm saying? I'm supposed to be their parent, and you do the best of your abilities and work your strengths, and don't worry about your weaknesses. Right. Fix your weaknesses as you go, because we all have them.
I love it. All right, guys, we're getting out of here tonight. Tiffany, Ayana, do you want to let people know where they can reach you guys? Because you both are so inspirational, great mothers, great people just overall, and I want people to be exposed to just more than one type of person. You know what I'm saying? More than one type of audience, more than one type of upbringing, more than one type of experience, you know? That was my whole reason of doing a continuation of this, because nobody parents alike, nobody raised their children alike, nobody was raised the exact same way. So let people know where they can reach you or find you.
I am on IG at The Beat Teach. So I didn't mention that earlier, but I do makeup artistry as a side business.
She the bomb, y'all.
She said side.
It's my little side business, The Beat Teach. And also I write for Chattanooga Moms blog, so you can follow that on Facebook and IG as well.
Awesome. Ayana?
My IG handle is absolutely _Ayana13 period 4. That's a dot. Not the word, because I know in the world we live in now it's like period. Okay, so my Facebook is 134 coaching. That's 134 coaching, and or you can follow me on Facebook at Ayana Yancey.
All right. Well, thank you guys so much for joining us. And of course, you guys know where you can reach me: Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, LinkedIn, anywhere. I am everywhere. Okay. I love you guys so much. Thank you for tuning in tonight. And I will talk to you next Tuesday.